Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Burning Hints Fantasy Football. We're going to be going through our each team in the sleeper league, in the formerly keeper league, I guess the redraft league, and we're going to start with Chris Gregg, just sharing our thoughts with each team. So, Hinty, what do you think about Chris Gregg's team?
Surprisingly really good. Um, just like I'm high on Hurts this year, so I think he'll be great. He has Schultz at tight end, so like the onesie positions he has covered. And then he has a lot of running backs that I really like and have like a shot to do better than like what they were drafted to be. And then obviously having Diggs and Sutton as your wide receivers gives you a good baseline.
Yeah, I actually really like a lot of the areas of this team. Like Diggs and Sutton are good, solid 1-2, and then London has like a lot of upside. And I do like
Yeah.
his backup receivers. I think a little bit more than I thought I would. It's a lot of low floor but high ceiling guys. But having Schultz and Hertz is just gonna sort of make that a little bit easier. I feel like, and he got Schultz and Hertz right on like that little snake around. In the draft, and it sort of worked out sort of really well. And I'm really high on Etienne, so I kind of really like this team. I'm not crazy about the bench though.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not super high on ETN, but like I think like if ETN hits, like he'll be a great pick there. And then like from everything I'm hearing, it's going to be 1A, 1B and for the Rams, and we've never seen anyone make that recovery on the Achilles still. So I think Henderson might actually end up being the lead back there.
Hmm.
Uh, and then I think Stevenson and Harris will kind of split snaps, but I think they'll both have value. And I've heard a lot of good things about Gainwell, especially with Sanders missing a lot of practice so far.
Yeah, I like Stevenson and I like Dotson a lot. Gainwell, who knows? And I feel like the Rams are always sort of they can't ever really find a running back for sure ever. So it's sort of like at some point Henderson's going to get an opportunity. My only thing about this team is just getting Jamal Williams and having DeAndre Swift seems like a good idea, but I feel like that always just causes more headaches um, than like working out for you. You know.
Yeah. I mean, he's Swift has played like 13 games both seasons, which isn't horrible, I think. I'm pretty sure it's start. No, last year he missed, I think, more than that. But
He missed
still, you're
four
going to get him
last
for the
year,
majority of
which
the
would have been
season.
13.
13. So, yeah, he's played 13 games both seasons so far, which isn't like bad.
Yeah.
Like on average, your running back's going to miss two. So,
Yeah, and I feel like I always like doing the backup for someone else's starter just because it hurts them and helps you, rather than like you're just waiting all year for a potential injury
yeah.
to like save yourself. But I feel like it's better just to maybe try to move him at some point and get more receiver depth. That might be a move, but other than that, like it's a really good team.
Mhm.
All right, so moving on, we're going to go to Snowball's team, which I felt like he actually drafted okay early and then sort of fell off the cliff here. I'm not sure if he drafted the end of it, but what do you think about Snowball's team?
Uh, no reason to have Tua. Desperately needs more running backs. Um, and a lot of big question marks at the receiver position.
Yeah, not my favorite team. Hate Robbie Anderson. I don't think he drafted the last like couple picks, so
Yeah,
that sort of puts
I
him in
don't
a
think he
tough
did
spot.
either.
And having only three running backs in your team total is gonna be difficult. He's just gonna have to hopefully hit waivers early and get one extra running back. But I don't hate his receivers. I mean, Devonte Adams I like. Smith I'm not crazy about. Thielen I know you're not crazy about, but I kind of like Thielen. But then there's Woods who's a question mark. Chark is a question mark. Claypool is a question mark. So it's just a lot of question marks. And it's nice to have
Yeah,
Kittle and Tucker and some other like top end players, but you know,
yeah, that's kind of like his team. Like I think having Murray and Kittle will be really solid. Devontae Adams, his starters at running back are going to be great. Like if his team stays healthy, starting wise, it looks pretty good. It's just teams never stay healthy, and I have no faith in Singletary as like the RB3 there for his team, and I'm growing on Thielen, but he's still terrifying to me. So
Yeah, I mean he's for what he's got, like he's a good flex. I think he's
yeah,
just flex is solid. And then Kamara is also kind of a question mark. I'm assuming he's not going to get suspended this year. That's what everything sounds like, but it's still
yeah,
so many question marks in the team. Just it's too much for me. So anything can happen really, but not the crazy about Snowball's team. Um, so we're moving on to Stein. And Stein had rookie overload with this team. What do you think about Stein's team?
um, I mean, he does have the Pat Mahomes Kelsey stack, which will be interesting because I mean, I don't like that's going to be the only reliable target there. I like Nixon. Other than that, I really don't love his running backs. I think Pollard will have some value here and there as like a flex option, but not like a starter. So I don't see him really with an RB2 because, from my understanding, Brees Hall has not won the starting job yet, and also the Jets have just an insane schedule to start the year. It's Baltimore, Cleveland, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, Miami, Green Bay, Denver, New England, Buffalo. And that's just a gauntlet to stop the run. And then receiver wise, it's really scary going into the season with Brandon Cooks being your wide receiver one.
Yeah, I kind of like this team, but I feel like the issue is I feel like this team's gonna get really good at the end of the season, and they'll be too far behind to actually make it worth. Like,
Yeah,
you're relying on so many rookies and other players that might be coming in like halfway through the season and really find their own. But I feel like maybe at that point it's too late. Mahomes and Kelsey are gonna have to carry the team, and then Mooney's gonna have to put up some good points. I actually like the receivers, kind of like they are. This feels like an island of misfit toys that somehow will work well and put up numbers, and then you got receivers who might show up later in the year. But yeah, the running back situation is scary if Mixon does, finally become sort of even, take another step after last year and become like a top five running back. This team could go pretty far because just needs to really make the playoffs with this team. But it's kind of one of those weird fantasy teams that might work out, but you look at the team and you're like, wow, this team doesn't look that good. But having that Kelsey Mahomes stack, if they're back to old Chiefs, could work.
yeah. I think this is my least favorite team that we've looked at so far.
I definitely like this more than Snowball's team. Um, let's see. We're going to Chris Smart with Howie's dream team. A lot of big names. What do you think about this team?
Um, I mean, Chris always does that two quarterback, which I think he'll be able to play both of those and find starters throughout the year. I think Zach Ertz is a good start for tight end to start off the season with Hopkins being out. I think Ertz will have some opportunities, even though he's missed some practices. Um, and those wide receivers are just insane. Like that is that's phenomenal. I don't think he'll have an issue starting wide receivers all year, and I think they'll win him a lot of games. Um, they'll also lose him a couple games. I'm sure he'll have a week where Chase puts up 4 and Williams puts up 3. But odds are he'll one of them will go off and help you win. And then running back, I think he's pretty solid here. It'll be interesting to see what Clyde is this year. But I think Barkley's a solid running back. And I think he'll get the touches to make him. He's got the talent and touches. It's just a bad offense. So he'll produce enough. And then if Mitchell can stay healthy and Penny can stay healthy, he's great at running back too. So I like this team. It's it'd be a toss up for me between Greg or this team if I had to pick a team that I wanted.
So this is definitely my favorite team so far. I like the running backs like Barkley, Clyde. I'm not huge on, but I really like Penny and Mitchell. I think that's like a really good, uh, you know, safe guarding number two running back, and then McKissick, you never know. I mean, everything that's going on Washington, he might be almost like the favorite back at this point. Um,
Yeah.
and Wentz throws, Wentz might be throwing some dick and dunks to him. Elijah Moore being your fourth receiver is pretty insane. So the
Yeah.
receivers are just absurd. There's the question about like Stafford's elbow, but he's got no one else in the Rams, and Aaron Rodgers is the other quarterback. So like, I don't know. I don't love the kicker, I guess, but I used to love Prater, but he's now just ancient. But I mean, the team's good. Russell Gage. I mean,
Yeah.
if he shows up to be what he was supposed to be, I mean,
It's a really solid team at the wide receiver and running back for sure. Big questions is what is Zach Ertz, especially past week 6. So he'll definitely have to look for that. And then QBs, he should be able to find a starter each week between Stafford and Rodgers, but also he could have issues there. I don't know. I like having like that playmaker difference. I like having the running quarterback. So I mean, I guess that's my big thing that I think makes me question whether I'd like Chris's team I'd like more.
yeah, I just two quarterbacks. I mean, I feel like the idea of Stafford and Rodgers blow it shouldn't have been this year seems low, and he can always just stream tight ends. I mean, half the
Yeah.
league's going to stream tight ends anyway. So Zach Ertz hopefully gets a couple of good weeks, but I have a feeling he's probably going to be streaming tight ends most of the year. Chris Smart, but the team's good. So now we're on to me. This is probably my favorite team so far. Maybe we'll see. But what do you think about my team?
Um, it really sucks that Robinson went down for you. I think having like a fourth back that you know is going to be for sure the lead back would be nice. I do like your quarterback, especially like I know you don't see it as a stack, but technically it is a stack, and Zeke will get receptions from Dak, especially with the lack of wide receivers to start the year. Um, so I do like that. I love Aaron Jones, and then having a player like Jefferson just really makes all your other receivers not as important because you know that you got a great go from Jefferson. But I mean, your other receivers are DJ Moore and St. Brown, who are going to be really good. Well, not really, really good, but I mean, DJ Moore is going to be perfectly fine to play each week. And St. Brown, I think, will get off to a hot start.
Yeah, I just
I
love
don't
the.
like the
You don't like Gasicki. Well, Gasicki was the last tight end off the board. It was just whatever. I was kind of hoping he was going to get traded, and there's still time, I guess. He could get traded. But DJ Moore and St. Brown, I just love the upside. I feel like they're like really, really high ceiling players if things work out where they are. And if not, I mean, they'll still be pretty solid. So I loaded up my running backs, and now it seems like that sort of didn't work. So my issue was I just couldn't find a wide receiver four, so I actually dropped. Forget who I dropped. I think it was Isaiah McKenzie or something random like that. I forget who I had, but I dropped him for Westbrook for the Tennessee to start the season. I just feel like Westbrook's probably going to be the number one or two, so that's going to at least hold on for me for a while. And then Jones and Elliott, I'm not either that high on, but I'm not really low on either of them either. So it's sort of just it'll be a weird season. I'll be trying to carry myself with my receivers. That's sort of my decision when I drafted Jefferson first. So if it works out the way I want it to, and Pierce or Sanders, one of those two guys, sort of shows up,
Yeah.
we'll be good. And then I
I
will
mean,
have.
yeah, I think your starting lineup is pretty solid. I mean, obviously, Gasicki is a low point on that offense, but or like on that starting rotation, but like starting wise, like Dak Jones, Zeke, and then Jefferson, DJ Moore, and St. Brown and your flex is a really solid like starting team.
Yeah, it's gonna be difficult who to bench when Hopkins comes back, but that's a long time from now. So now we're gonna go over to the new guy, Zach, and he actually got an a late second and sixth, and that allowed him to get Josh Allen. I guess I forget exactly how it worked,
Yeah.
but what do you think about Zach's team?
I mean, obviously having Josh Allen is just a difference each week, and then I like having Pitts also. However, downside with that, everything else is going to be a little weak. Taking an early tight end and early QB. Um, I like Najee this year. I don't have high hopes for him, but outside of that, I think AJ Dillon will be startable every week this year, and extreme upside if Jones goes down. Um, and then I think Davis will be valuable to start the season. I think Damian Harris will be valuable all year, and I think Kenneth Walker could have value later on in the season. I think his big issue is at wide receiver.
Yeah, his receivers are just question marks. I remember we were waiting for him to pick when he picked like Cooper after McLaurin, and everyone was like, "Oh my god!" And then, I mean, he's really just waiting on Godwin, hoping either Pickens or Sky Moore sort of shows up. But I mean, he's kind of overloaded at running back, so that might be a move if Kenneth Walker actually does become the number one to try to ship either Davis or Harris out. I mean, who knows what's going to
Yeah,
happen with Baltimore.
that's the issue though, is he can't really ship out a running back there until Kenneth Walker takes over that dominant area. But I mean, I also don't mind Damian Harris as your number two. So I think I'm with you. I think he needs to find a way to ship out one of those running backs, and pair it with probably Terry McLaurin or Chris Godwin to get someone who you can play now and you know is going to be good.
Yeah, like a for sure player, because Cooper is a really question mark, and
Yeah,
McLaurin will
I mean,
probably play, but
to me, I have questions around all of them. It's like Godwin, I don't know when he's going to be healthy to get back. Cooper, I'm not sure if he still has it or not. He looked really rough towards the back half of last year, and now he's going to have Brissett throwing him the ball, and then Terry McLaurin. Like, I think he's a talented receiver. He just got paid, but also at the same time, he has Carson Wentz throwing him the ball, and I'm not sure. I mean, it's going to be better than Heineke, but he also didn't have like Dotson there taking up targets. So
yeah, I think he'll probably just be around the same area, which is
yeah,
low end receiver two, and he's the first receiver on the team, so that's sort of the issue. Um,
yeah.
and I think he'll still play well, but not he's not taking the leap. I don't think with Carson Wentz. Um, all right, let's move on to Nick P, two-time defending champion right here. And do you think this team is a favorite to take it again?
Um, I don't know. I think this is probably one of his weaker teams, but I thought that last year. I didn't think last year was going to work out, and he also had some bad injuries to start last year. But um, I'm going to call it now and say that Nick P does not get the three-peat because I don't like Burrow this year. I don't like Cam Akers. I think Raheem Mostert is the backup. I don't like doing the Cook Madison stack because you just have to hold Madison all year. And then CD Lamb, his wide receivers are pretty solid to start with, Lamb, Waddle, and Higgins. But outside of that, like, I don't love Lockett this year. I don't love Myers this year. And I have my questions on, like, I think Hawkinson will be fine, but I don't expect him to be the number two target on that team anymore. Like, I think it's a question mark if he's the number two target anymore. I think St. Brown might have taken that over. You still have Swift there that's going to be taking a ton of targets. And I just think Hawkinson might have fallen to three.
Yeah, I'm not like high or low on this team. It just feels like okay. It's not like a team that I would be falling in love with. I like Cook and Lamb. Like those are two guys that could probably be the top of their positions. And then you have a Burrow Higgins stack, so this team could honestly be really really good. But it's just a question of he's got so many running backs, so he just really invested a lot in running backs, and it's sort of a lot of gambles to see if they pay out. Which I get. Cam Akers being your number two, so you're gonna, try to find another guy that can kind of help out. And I actually really like Lockett at the four. I think someone was talking about Lockett's stats with Geno Smith were like pretty like his production was still fine with Geno Smith. It wasn't like
Yeah.
anything like a huge dip. But again, a lot of people don't think Geno Smith's going to last the whole year. So I mean, who really knows? Sounds like a lot of push for Drew Lock in Seattle, but I'm not high on Waddle or Akers or Hawkinson really, but it could all sort of work out, especially if you have Lamb and Cook and Higgins-Burrow stacked, sort of really producing for you. So it's fantasy. I don't think he'll
Yeah.
three-peat, but mostly just because I hope he doesn't. But all right, we'll move on to Kuzi, and I remember liking his draft. But what do you think about Kuzi's team this far?
I mean, I think Tom Brady's a great. Like, I mean, he's going to be perfectly fine as your starting quarterback all year. I think Nick Chubb's a perfectly fine RB1, and I really like his like kind of like I see it as a 1-2 punch between Patterson and Dobbins because I think Dobbins is going to get off to a really slow start this year, coming off the complex ACL injury. But then I also think Patterson is going to be phenomenal to start the year. So I think that's a great way to start the year. And then you go to wide receiver, you got the Mike Evans stack, you have Cooper Kupp, who there's no reason for him not to still be the wide receiver one this year. Um, and then you got some shots on like Juju if he ends up being the wide receiver one there and like staying healthy. Deontay Johnson, if he's still, I think he still is the primary target. It's just whether or not Trubisky stays the QB, which I think I just saw earlier today that he was named a captain for week 1. So I would assume he's the starter. But if Pickett comes in, I feel like I just lose all faith in that offense. And then he has some shots on like Watson and Renfro. So, I mean, I think his team, this is a great foundation to start the season on.
Yeah, I think the start of the season with Evans and Brady is like really awesome. I'm actually not very high on his running backs. I'm not crazy about Chubb with what's going on in Cleveland. And I've just never been high on Patterson. Even last year, I was like, "How is this happening? Like, how is this guy doing this? Like, after all these years." I do like Dobbins, but it's definitely gonna take some time. I like the Zamir White pickup, but I think that's like a nice little sit because Jacobs always gets hurt. So he'll probably play. I'm surprised he has Juju playing over Deontay right now. I know that the projections say Juju, but I don't know. Seems like hard to believe that Deontay Johnson, like the most trustworthy
Yeah,
guy in that
I think
offense.
week 1 for me, I would start Deontay there as the number 3, basically.
Yeah, because the only person on the Chiefs that I have any faith in, like week one, I guess Mahomes and Kelsey, but really just Kelsey in terms of flex players. Because you're just, I could see Juju catching one pass for 10 yards. Um,
Yeah.
It's just who knows. But I mean, it's a gamble. I like Fryermuth, but it's just really the running backs I'm not that crazy about. Just because I used to be really high on Chubb, but now that it's just like a very limited offense, I'm a little bit worried about that. And then Patterson's on Atlanta and a gadget player, so it's hard for me to get super excited. But his
Yeah.
receivers are really good. Not as I didn't like it as much as I thought I did before, but his receiver depth is great. Anything else you want to talk about with Kuzi's team?
No, I mean, I think we've said everything.
Hmm.
But I like that team as like a good foundation to start the season off. I mean,
Gotcha. All right, so we're on to Rob Matz. What do you think about the Rob Matz team?
um, running backs are surprisingly pretty solid. Like Eckler, Williams, and now Gibson, who I think he's at least going to be the main rusher for the first 4 weeks of the season at this point. So I mean, start the season pretty solid there. Um, I don't love having a wide receiver and running back on the same team. It really like caps your upside for each week. So I'm not huge on Keenan Allen as wide receiver one. I do like Keenan Allen, and I do think that you can have him as your wide receiver one. I just think for his team setup, I don't love it. Um, I think Metcalf will still have value this year. He's extremely talented. And then I think he's just going to kind of piece together that wide receiver two slash like between Metcalf, Parker, Ayuk, Julio. I think he'll be able to piece together that wide receiver two, and he'll start three running backs to start the year. And I said it after the draft. I don't like Darren Waller this year. He just got back to practice and has been out with a hamstring injury. At least that's what they said. If he's just been faking an injury for the contract, that's a different story. But he only had like one practice through most of camp. So
Yeah, it's kind of a weird team. I really like the running backs, even all the way down to Hines and Carter. I think Carter's like, hey, why not? And Hines, I actually really like. There's like a report the other day I saw that they're trying to get him more involved in the offense, but his receivers are kind of brutal. So I don't really like. I like Keenan Allen. Not huge on Metcalf. I've never been big on him, and I like Ayuk actually in terms of upside, but Parker, Zay Jones, Julio Jones, maybe a couple weeks for Julio Jones, but Zay Jones and Devontae Parker, I just don't have like a ton of confidence in. I like Devontae Parker as a player, but just everything coming out of New England thus far just really doesn't look good. Gibson worked out really well for him. I think there's like a lot of to like sort of with this team, but the receivers are just scary for me, just really scary. But that's something that's easier to fix than I think running back is. So that's like one positive out of this. Not
yeah,
crazy about Waller either, but just so many mouths to feed in Las Vegas, I think. Um, all right. Flying through, we're on to Connor Lestrange. And he had the first overall pick, I believe. And who do you think? What do you think about him?
um, I mean, running backs are really solid. Just Jonathan Taylor's going to be phenomenal as like your RB1. Then you come back with James Conner, who I know you're not high on, but I absolutely love James Conner this year. And then having like Kareem Hunt and a flyer for Cook, like, and if who knows what James Robinson is going to be, I have the same concern as Akers though with the Achilles. Um, Herbert's going to be phenomenal as your quarterback. Um, and I don't love Knox at tight end, but I think he'll be like startable. Um, he has a high chance of falling in the end zone. And then wide receiver, I think, is kind of my biggest question mark. Like, I hate Galladay. I don't love Boyd because he is the wide receiver three on that team. And it's just, there's only so many passing attempts that are going to go to Boyd. And it's not really the high value targets that you want. Um, and then I like AJ Brown, and I think he'll be great. I have nothing against AJ Brown. He just where he took him is kind of the question mark. So I like AJ Brown. I like Bateman, and I really think Judy might end up being a surprising letdown for your wide receiver too. I don't think he'll be
Yeah.
bad. I just don't think he'll be what people are expecting.
Yeah, I could see this team looking a lot different after week one. I could see him cutting Boyd and Galladay and Winston and putting in three new players and potentially James Robinson too. So I think this
Yeah,
team, this bench could look very different very soon. But I like his running backs. I mean, Hunt, Taylor, Connor, and then I like the James Cook. I think that's one you got to hold on to.
yeah,
The bench receivers are just the issue is there's not like high ceilings for any of these people, and even the starters like Bateman, like what like 1,000 yards you'd hope for and like 8 touchdowns would be like the really great, you know. And then AJ
yeah. I
Brown,
mean,
it's not bad, but
AJ Brown to me could finish as a top, probably a top 10 wide receiver. Like I could see him making it in there. Like I can see a road to there. Bateman, there's definitely no road to being top 10. I think there's a road to being a top 24, and I think it's a pretty solid path, and I think it makes sense.
yeah,
Judy, I think, finishes outside the top 24. Boyd, I think, finishes outside the top 24, but inside the top 36. And Galladay, I think, finishes around like 80th wide receiver.
yeah, I was gonna say
So,
100. Uh, Yeah. Well, I feel like it's more likely that these guys disappoint than they um, more likely they disappoint than they like over exceed expectations. That's just my
But
feeling with the receivers.
and I
It's
will
a
say, like,
personal thing.
that's a wide receiver thing, but like with that, like he does have a great foundation though of having Herbert, Taylor, Connor, and Hunt that
Yeah.
will all be ready. And I think Hunt's going to be. I mean, he was a top five back before he got hurt last year. I don't think he's a top five back. That's just where he was. And then the year before that, he was heavily utilized in the passing game. He's not a
Yeah.
fun player to play. He just somehow does it.
Yeah, I think this team's a good team and they could definitely, make the playoffs and win it all and everything, but I just a team that would give me headaches personally. Um,
Yeah.
so we're gonna move on to Hinty.
All
You want
right.
to go over your team? You want me to do your team first?
I'll let you do go first on my team.
So there's a lot I like about it, but I'm not crazy about the receivers. I love McCaffrey and Fournette, and I love Andrews. So you went with that tight end, and that's why you're suffering at the receiver. Then Lance is a good solid one. You could always stream like who's and what's later. I feel like one of the like big things that sort of has to happen is Gallup sort of has to be good. I feel like for you. I feel like Marquise Brown, you're doing that for that first 8 games. Then Gabe Davis, you hope that it's really, really, really sort of following what all the tea leaves are saying that it's gonna work out for him. And then A Rob, it's sort of that same idea. You're hoping that all the reports and all that stuff has come true, and he's gonna still be a really good receiver. But it's just a little bit of question mark at the receiver. I like Kirk as the backup. I'm not crazy about MVS, and Osborne is sort of another question mark, and Rondale Moore was just disappointing. I feel like last year, but I feel like having like those two guys on the IR just sort of makes your team very interesting and has like a really high potential. And then you've got, I mean, I love Chase Edmonds, so again, that's just another really good. I love your
Yeah.
running backs. Is pretty much what it is, and the receivers are hopeful, but like kind of unproven, I guess.
All right. Well, I'll go ahead and give my thought process for my team. Um, I'm just hoping Trey Lance throws like 20 touchdowns this year, which I think is very doable whenever you look at his receivers of Ayuk, Kittle, Debo. I think people are expecting probably about 20 touchdowns from them alone. And you give 20 touchdowns along with just like 50 rushing yards a game, which I think is very doable because that's what he did in his starts last year. That would put him about the QB like 7 this year, like, which is just like that's phenomenal to have, and I'm perfectly fine with that. If he does more than that, then I'm looking at a top 5 QB. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey, Fournette, I think are going to be phenomenal all year. It's more just a health issue there, and I think Edmonds will be a good uh, player all year. And then Mark Andrews, great, probably going to be the tight end one. Wide receiver wise, the only like the storyline that I look at most of them is like, yeah, Rondale Moore, Osborne, MVS, they're all kind of flyers. I think Christian Kirk is going to just be a value pick who I can kind of play here and there. But Marquise Brown last year was the wide receiver 5 until Jackson went down. Through like the first 7 weeks of the season in a low passing volume offense. He's going to a better passing volume offense with a more accurate quarterback. So I think he'll be phenomenal for the first 6 weeks. Argument for him being great the entire year. Hopkins is now 32 years old, I believe, or isn't he? 30 years old, sorry. He's 30 years old, and his yards per reception went down last year for the first year ever before he got injured. So, is there a chance that Brown becomes the deep threat and the most valuable weapon on that offense? I think there's a chance. Gabe Davis, people were questioning whether or not Emmanuel Sanders or Diggs was more valuable to start last year. and he's gone, and I think that Davis takes over that role. And then Allen Robinson, we've seen him be a top 5 wide receiver multiple times with shitty quarterbacks. So I'm just hoping that he still has it. Robinson, to me, it might be Robinson and Davis are more scary to me than Brown is. I think Brown will probably finish as a top, like probably around 12 or 13 on the year.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I'm more nervous about Gabe Davis and A Rod than I am about Hollywood Brown. I think that the floor is way higher for Brown than the other two. But I mean, for the most part, it's just if the tea leaves go, it seems like it's going to be good. And having Gallup, whenever Gallup comes back, will sort of hopefully
Yeah.
replace if either one of those two guys just totally shits the bed. But I don't think it's not where I'm leaning. But yeah, I think it's a good team. And then we're on to the Cat Dog, Alex Herrera's team, and he did a weird trade movement that sort of altered his team, but it's a weird team that sort of works. What do you think about his team?
I mean, I love Lamar this year, and Derrick Henry was scaring me, and because of the age, but re-injury wise, for like what he had, it's like a low chance of re-injury. He's kind of a freak of nature, and he was like, I think he finished third in evaded tackles last year, even with missing half the season. Um, I don't know. To me, like I was low on Henry, but now like as we get closer and closer to the season, like I'm terrified to go up against Henry. I think Henry could still 100% have it and just be an absolute beast this year. Which I think kind of covers up his running back weakness after you get past Henry. Because yeah, after that, I think Jacobs will be okay, but I don't expect anything great. Drake, I'm not really expecting anything. Same with Foreman and Williams. I think you can play them, but they're not going to do much. And then wide receiver wise, I absolutely love his wide receivers. Like I don't have a bad storyline for any of them where I don't see them at least produce. Like Tony's the only one that I can go. He's not going to produce value this year, but what he spent a 10th round pick on Tony. So I love his wide receivers, and I think Goddard has a chance at being something also.
Yeah, I love his receivers. It's funky seeing Lazard at the two, and then it's like, oh wait, Debo's in the flex. But
Yeah.
I mean, Jackson, Henry, Hill. I mean, that's Jackson, Henry, Hill, Debo. I mean, that's just like a scary front. Like, imagine just seeing that in real life. Be wild. But yeah, I like his receiver depth, but it's sort of the running back sort of a question mark. I like the Foreman pick just because, McCaffrey's always hurt. But as a Panthers fan, I'll tell you that Foreman is not a definite number two running back in Carolina because their coach is an absolute moron. I like Jamal Williams as like another guy, but he definitely needs some help at running back, and I think he is trying to shop around and find some more help, and I think he could definitely do that. Olave is just like a really, variable player. I feel like it could really work out late in the season for him. So I like that, and Lazard can sort of hold the fort down. Hopefully, if he's the number one. Josh Jacobs is scary. I know he's trying to move Josh Jacobs, but I feel like at least for most of the year, at least the beginning, it's going to be Jacobs' team, and then we'll see what McDaniels
And I
wants to do.
And I think Jacobs will be the goal line back on that team. When you look at everyone and like how they're built, I don't see Jacobs not being the goal line back, which is the like some of the most valuable carries. So
Yeah, and I think there's
yeah,
going to be one of the early weeks. Alex is going to spend a lot of money on a running back. I think, and
yeah,
free agency wire, and I think he knows that. But yeah, I mean Jackson, Henry, Hill, and
yeah.
Samuel, you could just win multiple weeks just from crazy performances from one of those four players. Um,
I do have to just throw this out there because I'm just looking at people's defenses right now. Um, Stein, you were playing the Buffalo Bills week 1 against the Rams. Probably not ideal. Zach Zellhart, you're playing the Buccaneers against Dallas. There's better matchups, but I understand that one. I can deal with it. Dallas, you're playing against Tampa Bay. Don't like that one.
yeah, that I saw
Chargers,
that.
you're playing against the Raiders. Not a huge fan of that one. Patriots against the Dolphins. I think it's okay. Broncos is a good one. Rams, you're going up against the Bills week 1. Like Connor, that defense is going to get destroyed.
Well, I think it might work out because it's Stein versus Connor, so they have the Rams defense versus the Buffalo defense week 1. So
God, that's
they might
ugly.
cancel each other out there.
They're both going to probably have like 2, maybe 3 points, and there's a chance that they're both negative.
Yeah,
So
defense
I
is
just
fun.
looked at some defenses and saw who they were playing and was like, should probably call some people out for playing some really, really bad defenses week 1.
Yeah, there's a pretty good team called Tennessee Titans playing the Giants week 1
Yeah.
on the waivers. So that's sort of the name of the game with defense is just matchups. And even, I mean, Washington versus Jacksonville, it's not bad. Not great.
And
Philadelphia versus
actually,
Detroit, who knows?
I'm going to go ahead and make that switch to Tennessee against them now that I know that it's not the rookie playing anymore.
Rookie, you mean Malik Willis?
No, now that I know that it's not Pickett playing anymore against Cincinnati.
Oh, you were stashing that for that. Okay.
Well, I was playing the Bengals week 1 against them. So this is a pretty good play if Pickett's out there. I guess it's
Yeah.
also a decent play for Trubinsky, but I think going with Mr. Turnover Jones is a better play.
Yeah, well, Titans, yeah, they lost Landry, but I don't think they'll have that much of an issue.
Oh, never mind, can't do that. Can't make any team changes because currently Gallup
You have
is
too
no
many
longer
IR
listed in
spots.
IR,
All
but
right.
I expect him to be listed as out. So,
Well, here we go. Anything else you want to bring up? There wasn't a ton of movement.
um,
We could talk about the sleeper trade. I'm not sure if you want to do or dynasty trade.
yeah, let's talk about the dynasty trade since that was a pretty big trade. I'll let you talk about it though because I made the trade. So,
Yeah. So Hinty moves on from Justin Jefferson and George Kittle to get Kyle Pitts, Debo, Adam Thielen, and a first round pick. I think it sucks to lose Jefferson because it's long term. Then Kittle, I'm not that high on, especially when you're swapping for Kyle Pitts. I feel like Debo is not close to Justin Jefferson just because of his usage and just his system he's in. But then again, he's in San Francisco with probably a more stable coaching situation than Minnesota, but who knows? I just think you sort of pull out this one. Just getting that first round pick is just kind of just felt like a lot for me. But I guess Thielen, how many years does he have? 2 years maybe, as like a viable
maybe two.
player.
Like, there's a chance that this is his last year and that he loses value halfway through this year.
Yeah, it is possible. But and then you're giving up potentially. I'd probably put him as like the number one player in dynasty, Justin Jefferson.
Yeah,
So
I would say very much you could argue that Justin Jefferson is the number 1 overall dynasty. Like, if you were to start up a dynasty league, that he would go 101.
yeah, I think it's either him or Chase, and I think they'll. It just depending on what your confidence is in the Vikings long term future, but who knows at that point what's going to happen. But I'm assuming you're happy with it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy with it, but like I cannot stress how stressful making that trade was. Just trading away Justin Jefferson was like, am I an absolute insane person? But I also know that I did get Pitts, and I think Debo is not on the same level as Jefferson, but will still provide me a top 12 wide receiver.
For at least
So
like 5 years ish, that's sort of what you're looking
yeah,
for.
for at least like probably the next like 4 seasons, as long as he stays healthy. So
Yeah, and you're recouping a first round pick, so that's sort of the idea
yeah,
there. And Thielen, I think, sort of just fodder in this. Anything else you
yeah.
want to bring up?
Um, nope. I think that's everything. Make trades so that we can shit on you for making bad trades
Yeah.
or good trades if you make a good trade.
All right. Signing off here, and hopefully everyone has a good first week of football.